Welcome to Tavern Archery. I'm Herr Johannes von Hammersbach, and after a day on the archery field, we come into the tavern, sit down, grab a pint, and talk about all things target archery. Prost.
They long had shot so well, and no wonder, for truly they spend time gathered here. They spend time gathered here in Tavern Archery.
We're back in the tavern today with Archos Tymme Lytefelow from the Kingdom of An Tir, Ludicrous Bowman. Tim also has his own YouTube channel, Tymme Lytefelow, where he gives instructional videos on archery. Welcome to the tavern, Tim.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Tim, can you spend a few moments and tell us about archery in the Kingdom of An Tir?
In An Tir, which is where I've spent all my SCA time, so it's been my entire experience of archery. There are about 4 or 5 branches that are really, really strong, and I've seen the last few years some other branches are kind of finally starting to gain some traction and grow their programs. Archery tends to be handbow within An Tir. Crossbow is fairly uncommon. An example of that is over the past 10 years, we do top 10 rankings. Over the past 10 years in crossbow, we've had anywhere from 8 to a maximum of 14 people with averages, whereas in our open category, which is things like recurves with cutout shelves, we've had anywhere from about 80 to over 120 people with averages. And there's a bunch more who shoot 1 or 2 scores or just shoot, are practicing and don't submit scores with handbow, which isn't something we tend to see with crossbow. So it's definitely a much smaller segment of our group here in An Tir that shoots crossbow. And we have ranking system, which seems to be different, but along the same lines of what other kingdoms do. We have rank medallions. We have our standard royal round for an adult is 3 static ends, 1 at 20 yards, 1 at 30 yards, 1 at 40 yards. And by static, I mean static ends, so 6 shots each. And then a 30-second timed end at 20 yards. And then our averages for the season are based on our top 3 scores that we submit during the season.
Tim, you spent a few moments talking about royal rounds in the Kingdom of An Tir. Can you break it down a little bit further and talk about your ranking system?
An Tir uses a ranking system for archers that generally covers about 20-point range. So when I started, there was unranked was 0 to 20, novice was, or 0 to 19.7, sorry. Novice was 20 to 39.7. Archer was 40 to 59.7. Bowman from 60 to 79.7. Master Bowman from 80 to 99.7. Grandmaster from 100 to 119.7. And then Ludicrous from 120 and above. I understand An Tir is one of the fewer kingdoms that's actually made Ludicrous an official rank within the group, as opposed to it just being a society thing. Since then, we've actually added a category. So we have below 40, we have Tyro, I think it is, from 10 to 19.7, and then novice is actually now 20 to 39.7. So we've added another rank down there to give archers who are generally starting out lower scores a rank as well. In An Tir, we have the kids shoot different distances than we have the adults shoot. So the composition of a royal round is the same, where it's 3 static ends and then a timed end at the shortest distance. But we have children's class, which is ages 6 to 10. And so they shoot 10 yards, 15 yards, 20 yards. We have junior youth who shoot 15 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards. We have senior youth that shoot the same as adults, and we actually just added another category that, because it was just added right before COVID, I can't remember the name of it. So senior youth covered from, was it 14 to 16-year-olds? And what we ran into was occasionally, you know, a lot of kids are ready at 16 to move to compete with adults, but sometimes they aren't. And so we wanted a category where they had the option of saying, you know what, I'm not really ready, so I want to continue in a kids category competing against my direct age group peers rather than like in An Tir, we have an open bow shooter named Archos, who is also a Ludicrous Bowman. And, you know, you throw a kid into a category where you have someone shooting Grandmaster Ludicrous over 100, you know, consistently, it can be a bad way at attempting to encourage them to keep being active in archery. So we have kind of an interim category there now. It's still adult ranges. It's just, we tried to narrow it down because you hit the age when kids are stronger, you know, a little more adjusted to the changes to their bodies. And so we kind of broke that out separate from those who are kind of competing against each other as they're going through those changes and trying to learn, what do I have to do differently now to be able to still be consistent here.
Tim, do you have any archery specific events in An Tir?
Yes, we have an event in Eastern Washington hosted by the Barony of Vulcanfeld every year called Archery Fest, which has all you can eat. It's a full weekend, Friday through Sunday. We have clout shoots, we have York shoots, we have royal rounds, we have novelty shoots. We have some thrown weapons mixed in as well. So that is a huge archery only event. We have some events like Ursulmus and June Fair that are not archery specific, but they draw a lot of archers because they have tournaments, they have prize tourneys or other tourneys, so they tend to draw archers. And last year I did an event locally for the first time called Day of Archery, where we focused on target archery, thrown weapons, and having classes. So it was, you know, whatever archery people wanted to shoot. Unfortunately, a small range, so it was fairly limited to novelties and royal rounds. But we also had combat archery there, so if people wanted to try that, they could. We had thrown weapons, and we had thrown weapons classes and target archery classes. And we ended up even with a pavilion set up that a bunch of people sat in and did ANS while they watched the archery. So I understand another event steward is planning to keep that event going whenever we reopen. So this may become a thing, I hope.
That sounds really cool. I mean, definitely sign me up for the all-you-can-eat archery event. It really sounds like An Tir has a lot of really cool archery events going on through the year.
Archery Fest, we do a lot of different novelty shoots, and sometimes different branches bring different novelty shoots, so it's not the same stuff year after year. One of the shoots that the local branch does that has been present every year I've gone is called Light You Are Dead, where we have a 3D standing bear mounted on a cart with wheels, and they have it on a rope and pulley system, so they wheel it towards you, and you're shooting loner bows of about 20 pounds and flu arrows, and whoever gets the most shots in before the bear stops moving is the winner and moves on. And that usually has probably 40 plus archers who participate in that shoot every year, and they go all the way through to a finals and determine a winner. They also do York shoots there, which we also do at other events throughout the year. I tend to prefer to shoot those elsewhere because Eastern Washington is really breezy. So some of the longer shoots are a little more challenging in side winds.
Tim, how long have you been in the SCA? And then what drew you to target archery?
So I've been in the SCA since 2006. And interestingly, archery is what brought me in. funny story. A friend of our family, we had a mentor pass away who, in theater, who I never quite understood at the time that what he had laying around the shop and kept moving place to place was actually a heavy fighter rattan sword. Uh, so he was an SCA person. He did a lot of woodworking, but anyway, so he passed, and then we ended up getting in touch with some other friends of his and becoming friends with them. And one of them invited my wife to come out and said, "Hey, you want to try this thing called archery?" And my wife had always had a little bit of interest in it, so she said, "Yeah." So I started driving her to archery practice every week and drop her off, come home, do work around the house, whatever, go get her, come home. Finally got wise to that, I'm spending an hour a day driving. So I'd drive her up there and sit and watch, and then drive her home. And a few times of that, it's like, well, wait, I want to try this thing too. This really looks fun. So that's how I got into archery. I owe it all to my wife and to our friend. So archery brought me in. I started out using loaner equipment and that, and primarily shooting hand bow. And then in December of 2010, I was in a rear end car accident on the freeway and ended up having neck fusion surgery. Interestingly, and perhaps good timing wise, just prior to that, a friend in our barony had started making crossbows. And I'd been playing with one of his a little bit now and then. And after this neck fusion and realizing that I just really couldn't shoot handbow that well anymore, he's like, "Can I try the crossbow? Wait, I can shoot this all day. Can I buy the crossbow?" And so I'd already had a small introduction and ended up with I think I got his number 2 crossbow. So of the first 2 he made, a guy who lives near me got number 1, and I ended up getting number 2 after he used it as a demo to let people see what it was and if they wanted one. So that is what forced the switch, because after the neck fusion, I realized that anything raising my arm 90 degrees or higher hurts. So 40-yard target causes pain. So I can maybe get one scoring round with handbow before I'm done shooting for the day, but I can pick up a crossbow and shoot it all day long. So.
As we mentioned earlier, Tim has his own YouTube channel. So Tim, can you tell us about your channel?
As you mentioned earlier, I have a YouTube channel. It's Tymme Lytefelow. I started out by recording classes as I taught them online, kind of really at the start of the COVID pandemic. I had plans and thoughts of doing arrow making and hadn't really put together how do I do these videos and share them. And so I started out recording some classes I taught, and then that kind of opened up to what I needed to do for the other class, the videos. So I do instructional videos. I have broken out the arrow making into each individual piece so that, if someone wants to figure out just a certain part of it, they can go straight to that video instead of having to scroll through a bunch and find the right spot. I've put out requests asking if there are specific things people want in videos, because my goal is to try and provide information that's going to help people. So I want to know what will help people. So if anyone has feedback, you can always reach out to me on Facebook at Tim Geyer, or my email address, which the easiest one to give you is lightfellow@geyercomputers.com, and give me suggestions, give me feedback. I'm happy to try to accommodate what I can, or find people who know what I don't, so that we can all share knowledge.
That's what it's all about, is sharing what we have learned from others and passing it to somebody who wants to learn. I've seen your instructional videos, and they are very, very helpful. How do you think virtual archery helps during the COVID time?
Well, I think that a lot of the online stuff lets us at least keep in touch with each other, keep active in some respect in archery while we're not able to actually go out and shoot, which I know we all miss doing. I also think that because we're not busy planning for events, attending events, it allows longer classes, or allows maybe more specific classes, or classes that tend to get bypassed or overlooked because people are so busy. And so I think it's a great time for those who maybe have a side yard they can shoot in, or a local range they're able to go to once in a while. They can watch, pick up some tips, and then spend some of their own time practicing without worrying about, everyone's watching me do this thing. Or so I think it's a great opportunity and time for sharing knowledge and for learning things.
Tim, what do you think the future is for virtual archery?
One of the things I've been trying to do since the pandemic started is to host just a general archery discussion session online about once a month. And I hope that even if that just happens regionally instead of inter-kingdom, I hope that continues to happen. I hope that encourages groups to do that, because me, for one, I've seen videos and class opportunities, discussion opportunities in other branches, in other kingdoms, and been able to join that and learn more about the breadth of archery in the SCA as a whole, as opposed to just knowing about An Tir archery. And that's helped me. It's encouraged me to try some different things with my crossbow shooting, because again, crossbow isn't a strong thing in An Tir, but other kingdoms it is. So I've been able to hear different tips and tricks by having this expanded access to other kingdoms, other branches, and them sharing their knowledge. So I hope that moving forward we can continue that, because there are a lot of people who do research and want to share it, and a lot of us who would like to have access to that, who, if we're not in the kingdom and don't look for kingdom specific classes, and even then, if it's not online, we have no way really to attend. So if some of this gets recorded and put online or moved online, it really opens it up for the SCA as a whole, and I think it strengthens the SCA archery community.
Can you just spend a few moments and give us some training tips on your crossbow?
And the tips I'm going to offer, some of them are generic, some are a little more specific to the way I shoot, which is standing. So my crossbow is designed to be into the shoulder. So the first tip that I generally suggest to people is figure out a way and a spot in your shoulder to make sure that it's in the same spot every time. Because if everything else you do is the same, but the end is in different places each time, you're changing the angle you're shooting at the target at, which is going to totally mess up your consistency. So that's one of the first things. Next thing, which unfortunately I don't think the camera's going to show because it's too narrow. My hand that I hold the crossbow with, I tuck the elbow down against my side. That provides an anchor point or a support point so that I can move the crossbow with it, but it's still solidly against my body, and it controls where the arm is when I'm shooting, rather than putting it, out to the side where the elbow can drift, because I know the elbow's right against my body. So again, for consistency. Third thing is holding the side of the crossbow. One of the things with crossbows, you don't want it to rock when you shoot it, because if it rocks, it changes the trajectory of the bolt. So, and I've found different crossbows have different ways of holding them. So this one, you'll notice I've got the index finger actually up against the front of the crossbow. I have 3 crossbows, and this is the only one this works on. The other thing then is holding both sides. Let's see if I can, the light's not great. There we go. So the thumb's on this side, the fingers are against that side, and With this particular one, what I've noticed is the thumb actually needs to be up a little bit higher on the body than the fingers. On my other ones, I put them even. And that, I think it has to do a lot with the weight of the crossbow, so that when I pull the trigger, it tends to really want to rock. So having the thumb higher stops that motion. One of the things to be careful of with this hand, and I've done it way more times than I'd care to count or tell you, is if you put your fingers more like that, you'll notice that the string goes right across. So you need to make sure your fingers and your thumb are down out of the way of the string path. Otherwise, you end up with a lot of pain, possibly some cursing. So by doing these things, you can keep the location of the crossbow consistent for each shot. The one other thing I would mention as a quick tip is looking at your prod. Usually I look at it compared to downrange, and the idea is you want your prod to be level, because if the prod is angled, then you're going to be shooting off to a side. So I will look down the crossbow. I'll usually pick like the base of the 20-yard target, for instance, and look at the prod compared to that to see if it looks level, and then I'll get up to my aim point. So those are a few quick tips on improving consistency with the crossbow.
We're going to show a quick short training video with Tim on his crossbow.
Hi, this is Tymme Lytefelow, Kingdom of An Tir, and this is a short video showing me shooting crossbow. I'm going to be taking the headset off to do this. And that is a short demo of me shooting crossbow, making sure it's into my shoulder, holding my fingers to prevent rocking, and keeping the deck level as I find my aim point and shoot. Thank you.
Tim, thanks for stopping by the tavern today and spending a few moments and talking with us about your archery channel on YouTube. We look forward to your return into the tavern. Pros.
Thank you for having me. It's been a fun experience. Cheers.